The Forbidden Jungle. The jungle of Zarnith Prime was not a place for the weak. Its trees were as tall as city towers. Their roots twisted through the ground like hungry snakes. The air was thick and hot. The sky was always a strange purple. Sounds echoed through the trees, deep growls, quick screeches, and sometimes sudden silence. Silence meant something was hunting. Zira, a young alien warrior, moved through the jungle with her blaster in hand. Her green skin shimmered with sweat. She wore light armor that matched the jungle colors. Her long, sharp ears twitched at every sound. She had trained for this moment her whole life. Her mission was clear: scout the area, find any human activity, and report back. The humans weren't supposed to be here, not on this planet, not in the jungle of death. But something strange had happened. A patrol drone had picked up signs, movement, heat, even cooking fire. It made no sense. Nothing could survive here, not even soldiers. Except maybe the Skarn beast. Zira whispered the name in her mind and shivered. The Skarn was the apex predator. It was 10 feet tall, covered in dark scales, with eyes like burning suns. It could move faster than sound. One swipe from its claw could rip open a ship's hull. And yet, someone had built a fire, right in Skarn territory. Zira moved silently. She climbed a tree with practiced ease. From above, she saw something that made her heart skip. There was a man, a human, sitting calmly by a fire. He wasn't scared. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was cooking. She focused her lens on the meat roasting above the flames, the color, the texture. Her eyes widened in shock. That's Skarn meat, she whispered. It couldn't be. That was impossible. Was he mad? Was this some kind of human joke? No. The bones near the fire were real. The thick jaw, the long tail spikes, the blackened skull, all of it belonged to the Skarn. Zira watched in silence, unsure what to do. The man took a bite of the meat, chewed, and smiled. Not bad, he said out loud to no one. Little chewy, but not bad. Zira's hands shook slightly. Who was this human? How did he kill a Skarn? Was he part of a new secret mission? Or was he something else, something far more dangerous? She checked her comm, but the signal was blocked. The jungle's core scrambled all communication. She was on her own. Approach carefully, her training said. Shoot first, her instinct replied, but her curiosity won. Zira dropped from the tree and landed with a thud behind him. Blaster raised. Freeze, she shouted. Don't move. The man turned slowly. He didn't panic. He didn't reach for a weapon. He just looked at her calmly, then smiled. Hey, he said. Didn't expect visitors. Step away from the fire, Zira demanded. Hands up. He stood up and raised his hands. His clothes were torn and dirty. His beard was thick. But his eyes, they were calm. Too calm. You're cooking a Skarn, she said, shocked. Yeah. He nodded. Want some? Zira's blaster shook. You killed it? Self-defense. He shrugged. It came at me. I ducked. It didn't. Zira didn't laugh. She looked around. There were no traps, no drones, no gear, just this man, a campfire, and the biggest predator's skull lying beside him. You shouldn't be alive, she whispered. The man smiled again. People keep telling me that. Zira's training screamed at her to capture him, but something in his voice, in his calm, made her hesitate. Then the trees behind her rustled. A deep growl came from the shadows. Zira spun around, heart racing. A second Skarn. Bigger, meaner, watching. The man looked at it, sighed, and said, Guess it smelled dinner. Zira glanced at him confused. You're not running? He picked up a spear he had made from bone and steel. Nope, he said. I'm staying for dessert. He shouldn't be alive. Zira didn't know what to do. The second Skarn beast stepped out from the shadows, muscles bulging under dark, wet scales. Its yellow eyes locked onto both of them, but mostly on her. It was hungry, and she was standing too close. Zira aimed her blaster, ready to fire. The beast growled low, its sharp fangs dripping with saliva. Then, without warning, it charged. "Move!" the human shouted. Zira leapt to the side just in time as the Skarn crashed into the fire, scattering hot embers and ash into the air. The beast roared, smoke rising from its burned skin. Zira rolled and fired. 3 plasma blasts hit the creature's thick hide. They burned but didn't stop it. The human, Daniel, didn't run. Instead, he grabbed a glowing spear made from a Skarn's tailbone. He moved fast, far faster than she thought a human could. He shouted, distracting the Skarn. As it turned toward him, he jammed the spear deep into its eye. The beast screeched in rage and thrashed violently. Zira watched in disbelief as Daniel ducked under a giant claw, jumped over a tail swipe, and stabbed again, this time under the jaw. The Skarn finally collapsed, shaking the ground as it fell. Zira stood frozen. "You," she whispered. "You actually killed it. Again." Daniel wiped sweat from his face and dropped the spear. "Told you," he said, breathing hard. "Self-defense." Zira couldn't believe it. Even her best trainers wouldn't have survived that fight. And yet here was a human, alone, weaponless except for a handmade spear, taking down 2 apex predators in one day. It was impossible. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. "Daniel Carter," he replied. "Explorer, crash survivor, jungle, cook." He gave her a grin. Zira lowered her weapon just a little. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered. "You're not trained. You're not from this planet. How are you not dead?" "Oh, I almost died," he chuckled. "A lot. First week was the worst, but after that I just got used to it." He sat on a rock, catching his breath. "Used to it?" Zira said. "You got used to Skarn attacks?" Daniel nodded. "They're not that different from wolves on Earth. Bigger, uglier, but same rules. Don't run, don't show fear, and always strike first." Zira looked around at the camp. It wasn't random, it was placed near water, surrounded by natural traps, hidden from sky scans. This man had learned. This man had adapted. She opened her scanner and checked for life signs. The jungle was full of danger. But in this moment, she felt something more dangerous standing in front of her. A human who had become part of the wild. "How long have you been here?" she asked. 6 months, give or take, he said. "I stopped counting after I ran out of batteries." Zira couldn't believe it. Her people had searched for the downed human ship. They assumed the crew was dead. No one found survivors, and yet here he was, alive, thriving, eating Skarn like grilled chicken. "I have to report you," Zira said. Daniel looked up. "I figured," he replied. "You're military?" "Scout division." "Then go ahead. I'm not going anywhere." Zira turned, hesitating. "You're not afraid I'll bring soldiers? Hunters?" Daniel leaned back against the rock. "Nope," he said. "Because if I wanted to disappear, you'd never find me again." That made her stop. "Why didn't you disappear when I came?" Daniel looked at her seriously. "Because I was tired of hiding." There was silence between them. Zira didn't know what to think. This human didn't act like a soldier. He didn't act like a fool. He acted like someone who had lost everything, and somehow found something even stronger inside himself. Her communicator buzzed faintly, signal slowly returning. A message came through. "Report status. Human found. Detain if located." Zira looked at Daniel. He didn't flinch. "You gonna follow orders?" he asked. She didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, she walked closer to the fire, looked at the cooked meat, and picked up a piece. She stared at it, smelled it, bit into it, chewed slowly. Then she looked at him and said, "Still chewy." They both laughed. But deep inside, Zira knew this was no normal man. And whatever mission she thought she had, it just changed. Forever. The second scarn. The jungle was silent again. Too silent. Zira and Daniel had just defeated a second scarn, something no one in her squad had ever done. But the jungle, it didn't forget. It watched. It waited. And so did she. Zira sat on a log, rechecking her blaster while her mind raced. Daniel poked at the fire with a stick. He didn't talk much now. He just stared at the flames. There was something about him. He wasn't just surviving, he was learning, growing, changing. That spear, Zira said finally. You made it from scarn bone? Daniel nodded. Tailbone, strongest part. And the tip? He reached into his pack and showed her a dark purple crystal. Found it in the cave, he said. Burns hot when charged, slices like heat. Zira blinked. That crystal was rare. Even her planet's scientists had barely scratched its secrets. Daniel had made a weapon out of it with no lab, no tools, and no training. You're not just lucky, she whispered. You're dangerous. Daniel looked up. I've had a lot of practice. Zira stood and walked to the edge of the clearing. The ground was still blackened where the scarn had burned. She looked at the giant skull. Its jaw was cracked. Its eye sockets were empty. Even dead, it felt like it was watching. You said it hunted you? She asked. Daniel nodded. The first one came out of nowhere. I barely escaped. Took shelter in a cave. Found its mate. I had no choice. He didn't say it with pride. He said it like a memory he wished he could forget. Zira sat back down. Why didn't you send a signal for help? Daniel shrugged. Ship was fried, no power, jungle scrambles tech. I figured if I stayed alive long enough, someone would find me. She studied him. This wasn't some wild savage. This was a man who had been broken, then built himself back up, piece by painful piece, and that made him something rare, something powerful. Suddenly, Zira's communicator blinked. A voice crackled through the static. Scout Zira, respond. Human presence. Confirmed in zone? She froze. Daniel looked at her. Go ahead, he said quietly. Do your job. Zira didn't move. Scout Zira, confirm human status. We are sending retrieval squad. She pressed a button, voice tight. Confirmed. Human, found. Status? She glanced at Daniel. He was watching her. Not scared. Not angry. Just waiting. Status, she said slowly, is unclear. Repeat. Status unclear. Need more time to observe. There was a pause. Then the voice said, You have 6 hours. Then we move in. The signal cut out. Zira stood, heart pounding. They're coming, she said. Daniel nodded. Expected that. She looked at him. You should run. He picked up his pack, slung the spear over his shoulder, and smiled. I'm not going anywhere, but I'll make sure they don't find me easy. Zira hesitated. You think you can hide from trained trackers? I've been hiding from scarns for 6 months, he said. Your soldiers are noisy by comparison. She smiled despite herself. You're insane. Most survivors are. Then she stepped closer, voice serious. If they catch you, they'll take you in. Study you, maybe worse. Daniel nodded. I know. Zira took a deep breath and said something she never expected. Then I'll help you hide. Daniel blinked. You sure? No, she said. But I know what they'll do, and I don't want that for you. They packed fast. Zira used her scout training. Daniel used his jungle tricks. Together they vanished into the forest shadows, and behind them, a silent campfire, 2 dead scarns, and a message written in the dirt. Not prey, not predator, just human. The humans passed. The jungle moved around them like a living thing, Zira. And Daniel traveled quietly, deep into the thickest part of the forest where roots swallowed old bones and giant vines wrapped around ancient ruins. Birds with glowing feathers chirped overhead. Somewhere in the distance something growled, but it kept its distance. Zira followed Daniel now. He moved like he belonged here. She had spent years training for survival, but Daniel lived survival. "Where are we going?" she whispered. "Somewhere safe," Daniel said without turning. "Well, safer than most." They walked through a narrow pass between huge stone faces carved long ago by an unknown species. Past the rocks, the land dipped down into a misty valley. In the center, hidden under layers of moss and roots, stood the remains of a crashed human ship. Zira's eyes widened. "That's your ship?" Daniel nodded slowly. The outside was torn, blackened by fire. The tail section was gone. But the cockpit still stood, half buried in vines. Zira touched the broken hull gently. "We searched for this. For weeks. Our satellites couldn't see through the jungle cover." "That was the idea," Daniel said. "Didn't want to be found." He led her inside. It was quiet, dusty, and filled with salvaged gear. Solar panels, water filters, dried meat. A bed made of stitched animal hides lay in one corner. It wasn't a ship anymore. It was a home. Zira sat down, still trying to understand. "You said you were an explorer." "I was." "Why were you alone?" Daniel looked down. His voice dropped. "I wasn't. Not at first." Zira waited. The air grew heavy. "I had a crew," he said finally. "4 of us, explorers, scientists. We were here on a peaceful mission, study the wildlife, learn. We weren't supposed to land. But something hit us, a solar flare or a weapon, I still don't know." He pointed to a wall where 4 names were scratched into the metal. Under 3 of them, he'd carved tiny marks, crosses. Zira lowered her head. "I'm sorry." "Me too," Daniel whispered. "I buried them, right outside. I tried sending messages, but the storm clouds here block long-range signals. No one came." Zira looked at him. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't trained for this. And yet he had survived it all. "How did you keep going?" she asked. Daniel gave a small smile. "At first I didn't. I wanted to give up. But then I remembered something." "What?" He pulled a small metal tag from around his neck. A dog tag. Zira leaned closer and read the inscription. It wasn't military, it was a child's handwriting. "Dad, come home safe." Her eyes widened. "You have a daughter?" Daniel nodded, eyes wet. "Back on Earth. Her name's Ellie. She made this for me before the mission. I promised her I'd come back." Zira felt her chest tighten. He had stayed alive for her, not for glory, not for revenge, but for love. "That's why you keep fighting?" she asked softly. "Every day." Silence followed. Then Zira stood and walked to the door. "We need to move again," she said. "My squad will scan this area soon." Daniel packed a small bag and slung the spear over his back. "You don't have to help me," he said. "They'll punish you if they find out." Zira looked back. "Let them try." They vanished into the jungle once more, 2 strangers from different worlds, bound now by something stronger than duty, by honor, by empathy, by a silent promise. They're coming for the human. The sun was setting over the jungle. Long golden rays filtered through the thick trees as Zira and Daniel moved deeper into the wild. The air was damp, filled with the buzz of strange insects and the distant cries of hidden creatures. But it wasn't the animals they feared now. It was the team coming to find them. Zira's communicator had buzzed again. A cold voice said, "Scout Zira, you have disobeyed orders. Team Gamma is en route. Capture the human alive. Eliminate any resistance." Zira crushed the device under her boot. "They're close," she told Daniel. "Too close." Daniel just nodded. "Then we make them work for it." He wasn't panicking. He was calm, focused. He pointed to a ridge above the river. "There's a canyon ahead. I know a way across. One path, one bridge. If we get there first, we can slow them down." They ran, through ferns taller than their heads, across fallen logs, past ancient stones covered in glowing moss. The forest got darker, thicker, but Daniel moved like he knew every route, every turn. Zira followed, heart racing. Behind them, she heard the distant hum of military drones. Then shouts. The team was on their trail. "How many?" Daniel asked. 6 soldiers, armed, 1 hunter. "Drone?" Zira said. "That all?" He smirked. They reached the bridge, a narrow line of old stone and vines stretched across a deep canyon. One wrong step, and it was a long fall to sharp rocks below. "You go first," Daniel said. "I'll buy time." "No," Zira said, drawing her blaster. "We do this together." They crossed quickly, one careful step at a time. Halfway across, the hunter drone spotted them. Its red eye blinked. A loud alarm echoed through the valley. "They know!" Zira shouted. A blast hit the edge of the bridge. Stones cracked. Part of the walkway fell away. "Run!" Daniel yelled. They made it across just as the bridge began to crumble behind them. Daniel turned, grabbed a skarn crystal from his pack and slammed it into a hidden hole in the rock. Boom! The explosion shook the jungle. The bridge collapsed completely, crashing into the canyon below. Zira looked back. No way across now. They were safe, for the moment, but she knew it wouldn't last. "They'll find another route," she said. "Then, we'll be gone before they do." They kept moving. At nightfall, they hid under a rock ledge. The jungle whispered around them, alive with sound, but it wasn't the animals they feared now. Zira couldn't sleep. She watched Daniel from the shadows. How did this man survive all this? Why was she risking everything for him? Then Daniel spoke, voice low. "You ever question your orders?" She nodded slowly. "All the time, but not out loud. Maybe it's time to start." Zira looked up at the stars through the trees. Her orders were clear. Capture the human. Take him in. But the more she saw, the more she knew. Daniel wasn't a threat. He was a symbol of hope, of survival, of what humans could be when pushed to the edge. She stood and whispered, "We move at dawn." "To where?" "To the old grounds," she said. "There's one place no one dares to follow." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because everything that enters disappears." The place where none return. By dawn, the air had changed. It was colder, quieter, as if the jungle itself was holding its breath. Daniel followed Zira through thick fog and twisted trees. The sun couldn't reach the ground here. Vines as thick as arms hung from black branches. Strange creatures watched from the shadows but didn't move. Not even the wind touched this place. This was the old grounds. Even Zira walked slower now. Her hands trembled as she brushed aside giant leaves. "You sure this is safe?" Daniel asked. "No," she replied. "But if there's any place they won't follow, it's here." Daniel looked around. The forest felt wrong. The trees were too quiet. The light didn't behave normally. It bent, like it was afraid to shine too bright. "Why do they call it the place where none return?" he asked. Zira stopped and pointed to a stone marker half buried in roots. It was carved in her people's language. "It says, 'Here, the jungle remembers.'" Daniel frowned. "That's not comforting." "It's not supposed to be." She didn't tell him the full truth. Years ago, her people had sent explorers here. None came back. Not one body was found, not one signal was returned. All records of what happened were sealed, marked, classified. Zira only knew because her own brother was one of the ones who vanished, and now, she was coming back to the same cursed ground. They walked for hours. Then the ground changed. It was soft, spongy. Bones appeared, animal, alien, even human, half buried under moss. Zira stopped cold. A broken helmet lay at her feet. She bent down, picked it up. It still had the tag, LT, R&Z, her brother. She dropped to her knees. "You okay?" Daniel asked softly. She nodded slowly. "This was my brother's." He disappeared here. I thought I'd never know what happened. Daniel knelt beside her. We don't have to stay, he said. Yes, she whispered. We do. Just then, something moved. Not an animal, not a drone, something old and massive. The trees shifted, a strange low hum filled the air, then crack. A huge branch fell just meters away. Daniel jumped to his feet, spear ready. Zira raised her blaster. From the mist, a massive shadow appeared. Not Skarn, not beast. It looked like a creature made of roots, stone, and glowing green light. It didn't roar. It watched. Don't move, Zira whispered. The creature's eye glowed. Then, something strange happened. It looked directly at Daniel and stepped back. What the? Daniel said. The creature turned and bowed. Zira stared in shock. The forest shimmered all. Around them, strange lights floated in the air like tiny stars. The ground pulsed gently as if the land was alive. Zira dropped her weapon. It's letting us pass. Daniel lowered his spear. The creature stepped aside, revealing a hidden path. Why me? He asked. Zira looked at him with wide eyes. Maybe because you're not from here. Maybe because you survived where none should have. Maybe this jungle remembers your fight. They walked through the path in silence. The mist cleared just enough to show a hidden lake, glowing faintly with green light. In the center, a stone circle. On it, ancient carvings of humans and aliens standing side by side. I've seen these symbols before, Zira said, voice shaking. In ruins far away, before we ever met humans. What does it mean? She looked at him. It means you were expected. The human legend. Daniel stepped into the stone circle. The carvings lit up beneath his feet, lines of glowing green pulsing softly with every step he took. The jungle was silent now, not from fear, from reverence. Zira followed closely behind, her heart racing. She had studied ancient alien ruins for years, but nothing like this had ever been found. Until now. Daniel turned slowly, looking around. What is this place? He asked. Zira ran her fingers along the carvings. It's a memory, recorded in the land itself. She stopped at an image, ancient, yet clearly showing a human shaking hands with a tall alien figure under twin moons. This is impossible, she whispered. What? This was carved centuries ago, long before humans discovered space travel. Daniel stared at the carvings. Then how? Zira stepped back, her voice trembling. They prophesied you. Just then the trees parted again. Zira's team appeared at the edge of the clearing. Blasters, raised, drones hovering. Her commander stepped forward, eyes wide. Stand down, Zira. You are interfering with an official operation. She didn't move. Daniel stood beside her, calm but ready. You don't understand what's happening here, Zira said. We understand enough. That human is to be taken. Now. The jungle rumbled. The great stone beast returned, its glowing eyes locked on the soldiers. The team froze. Zira raised her voice. This human has done what none of us could. He survived the wild, faced the Skarn, earned the jungles. Respect. This land remembers him. And you want to put him in a cage? The soldiers hesitated, but the commander lifted his weapon anyway. Then, boom. A massive Skarn crashed into the clearing. Not to fight. To bow. Behind it, more creatures came. Beasts that once hunted Daniel now stood still, silent, as if honoring something greater than fear. What's going on? The commander whispered. Daniel stepped forward. I'm not your enemy. He held out the dog tag around his neck. I just wanted to go home. The great beast moved beside him. The carvings on the stone circle shifted again, now showing a human leading both alien and beast together. Zira looked at the commander. This man is not a prisoner. He's part of something older than us. The team lowered their weapons, one by one. Daniel turned to Zira. So what now? She smiled. Now you come with me. as a friend, as a legend. Epilogue months later, stories spread across alien worlds. A human had walked into the forbidden jungle and walked out with beasts as allies and ruins awakened by his presence. No army had done that. No scientist had survived that. Just one human. His name, Daniel West. His legend, the man who feasted on the jungle's apex predator and earned the land's respect. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again.